Mr. R wanted us to learn, and I, Sam Lutz,
Dylan Jones,
from his 6th period chemistry, have learned to an A level the following concepts from the first 11 chapters of our chemistry book. This is not an inclusive list, but my selection and his of concepts from each chapter that we will remember. Chapter 1, Intro to Chemistry. What I've learned, there are 5 traditional areas of study, which are organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, biochemistry, analytical chemistry, and physical chemistry.
In chapter we'll learn that chemists play an essential role in finding ways to produce, conserve, and store energy. In chapter 2, I learned that compounds can be broken down while elements cannot be broken down.
And in chapter 2, I found this very interesting. The element gallium has a melting point of 30 degrees Celsius, which means it can melt right in your hand like butter. And in chapter 3, Scientific Measurements, I found that the 5 SI base units that are commonly used by chemists are the meter, the kilogram, the Kelvin, the second, and the mole.
In chapter 3, I learned that 5 SI units are matter, kilogram, Kelvin, second, and mole.
Great minds think alike.
Right. In chapter 4, I learned that Democritus believed that all elements are indivisible and indestructible.
And in chapter 4, I learned that isotopes are atoms that have the same number of protons but different number of neutrons. And in chapter 5, Electrons and Atoms, I learned that the quantum is energy required to move an electron from one energy level to another.
In chapter 5, I learned that the off-bow principle shows us how to find an electron configuration. In chapter 6, I learned how to sing the periodic table song.
In chapter 6, I found out that Mendeleev was one of the first people to officially arrange the elements in the periodic table, and he organized them in orders of atomic mass. And in chapter 7, Ionic and metallic bonding, I found that ionic compounds are electrically neutral.
In chapter 7, I learned that metal atoms are very compact in the way that they are arranged. In chapter 8, I learned that melting a network solid will require breaking covalent bonds throughout the solid.
And in chapter 8, I found that the intermolecular attractions are weaker than ionic and covalent bonds. In chapter 9, Chemical Names and Formulas, I learned that the names of most polyatomic anions end in "ite" or "ate."
In chapter 9, I learned that cations are formed when metals of 1A, 2A, and 3A lose electrons. I gotta do chapter 10 too? Jesus, kid.
Jeez,
chapter 10. I learned that a mole of any substance will have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles of that substance.
And in chapter 10, I learned that quantities used is by count, by mass, and by volume.
Why'd you start chapter 12?
I didn't.
You have chapter 12.
It's because I was thinking about it and I needed corrections, okay? Don't judge me. Chapter 11, Chemical Reactions. In chapter 11, I learned that chemical reactions is also described as a balanced equation, which each side of the equation that has the same number of atoms of each element. Don't judge me.
In chapter 11, I learned that in order to balance a chemical equation, you need to place coefficients on each side of the equation.
Great minds think alike.
Again.
And that concludes our...
We've learned in Mr. Hasselsen's 6th period chemistry class.
Yep. Yay!